Hello and welcome to Intimate Lens, Dr. Katz. Today let's share with you a case study. A patient who arrived, sat herself down and said, "I lost my arousal. Will it ever come back?" Let's see what happened. So the patient was 58 years old, menopausal, in a very good relationship, using vaginal estrogen, and claimed that life used to be just fine in the sexual department. But then, a while back, she lost her arousal. What does that mean? What did you lose? You lost the interest? You lost the ability to get aroused? You lost the ability to climax when you were aroused? You're totally not interested? So the initial reaction would be, aha, you're menopausal, of course. You lost it. Yeah, too bad, real sad. That's what life is all about. No, we're not going there. Because, check this one out. 78-year-old menopausal woman who came to us for a vaginal problem, and she was telling us while we were treating her that she is a widow, haven't had sexual relationship in several years since the husband took ill and then passed. But there is that gentleman who is really courting her. She really doesn't want necessarily to be with him because he's courting all kinds of other women, and she does not want to be just one of many. Well, in the course of treatment, we hear that he is truly very interested in her, and the more she deflects him, the more he is pursuing her. Eventually, fast forward, they became a couple. And sexual intimacy was fantastic, she reported, way after she was discharged. Sexual intimacy was fantastic. They were like bunny rabbits, having a very good time. 78, he was a bit older. And that was great. We're happy for her, keep in touch. Sounds great. 2 years later, we hear back from her. "Hello, how are you?" "Well, tell me, is something wrong with me?" "What's the problem?" "Remember how wonderful sex was and all that?" "Well, after a while, we settled in, we're together. I lost the interest. It's not at all anymore what it used to be." So where are we going with this information? With a 58-year-old and a 78-year-old and any other woman, whether menopausal or not? Let's remember, the mind is the woman's sexual organ. What happens between the ears will determine what will happen sexually. The clitoris is the erogenous zone. This is the physical part where arousal occurs. Women's sexuality strives on newness, on excitement, on exploration. It's when those interests are working, she will be aroused. She will be keen on being involved. She will get going. Things will work out for her. But when she settles in, when boredom becomes part of the relationship, when she knows all his moves in the intimate department, when the mundanes of life settle, it's no longer exciting. It's no longer thrilling. There is no longer anything to explore. And with that, dwindles down the female sexual interest. So it's not that she lost a libido. It's just that she's going through the phases of female sexuality. So what needs to be done? Unlike a male who's quite wired to be a very efficient sexual machine, they can enlist all their senses to smell, look, touch, visualization, fantasy, etc. And it'll work for them just great, and they could be turned on, willing, ready, and able at a drop of a hat. It's not so for a female. So for a female, it's a matter of work. You have to be able to shut down your brain and get into it. And how do you get into it if it's no longer so exciting? And no, you cannot go on vacation every weekend to change scenery for excitement. That's not quite reasonable for most people. A woman really has to focus on what the sexual intimacy brought. The sense of closeness, of togetherness, something you cannot do with your best of friends. And by tuning into that special nice, this is how you can get back to being sexually involved. Even if at first it starts and you say, I'm not quite sure I'm going to get there. Give it a chance. See if you can shut out the brain, shut out the rest of the world. Not focus on, I'm not sure I really want to do it, but rather, I like that nice. I remember how nice it felt. I want to reconnect with that sexual nice. I want to reconnect with that intimacy, with that closeness it brought us to. So I will not think about anything negative. I'll just go into the positive, and I will just let my body go and show me where and how I like it to happen. We need to educate and educate and educate that you don't lose a libido. You don't lose arousal. You don't just stop climaxing. Those body parts continue to work quite well, barring extreme medical situations. It is really a state of mind that has to do with what we discussed earlier, with your life, your relationship, what happens between your ears. Of course, menopausal. Don't forget lubrication, very important. The area is dry. Dryness is not comfortable. Watch our other video about lubrication. But you could always get aroused. Because the question to that 58-year-old was, if you just masturbate yourself, if you play with yourself, stimulate yourself manually or with a clitoral vibrator, can you get there? And she says, oh yeah. Well, then it works, right? Must be the other components that affected your life and your interest with a partner. And that's not a loss of arousal. It is just a refocus on arousal. Hopefully you found answers to your questions. Please like, share, subscribe, spread the word, and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you, and see you next time.